Before we begin tonight's terrifying true story, I want you to think about the last time you got into a rideshare vehicle late at night. You probably checked that the license plate matched the app, maybe confirmed the driver's name, and then got in the car, trusting that the technology keeping you safe. But what happens when someone exploits that trust, using a fake profile to pick up vulnerable passengers with much darker intentions than transportation? Tonight's story comes from a woman in Las Vegas whose routine late-night Uber ride turned into an abduction attempt that nearly cost her life. As I tell you this story, consider how easily we trust strangers simply because an app tells us to, and how vulnerable we are once we're inside a moving vehicle with someone who isn't who they claim to be. My name is Melissa, and I work as an event coordinator for one of the major casino resorts on the Las Vegas Strip. The job involves long hours and frequent late nights, especially during peak or convention season when events run until 2 or 3 a.m. I'd been living in Vegas for about 2 years and had gotten comfortable with the city's 24-hour culture, using Uber and Lyft regularly to get home after late shifts when I was too tired to drive my own car. The night everything went wrong started normally enough. I'd been coordinating a private corporate event at the Cosmopolitan that wrapped up around 1:45 a.m. I was exhausted from being on my feet for 12 hours and just wanted to get home to my apartment in Henderson, about a 20-minute drive from the Strip. I requested an Uber through the app, saw that a driver named Marcus with a silver Honda Accord would arrive in 3 minutes, and headed down to the pickup area. When the silver Honda pulled up, I did what I always did. Checked that the license plate matched the app. The numbers looked right in the dim lighting of the casino pickup area, and when I approached the car, the driver said, "Melissa," confirming my name. I got in the back seat, settled in with my bag, and told him the address was already in the app. For the first few minutes of the ride, everything seemed completely normal. The driver was probably in his mid-40s, clean-cut, wearing a polo shirt that made him look like any other rideshare driver in Las Vegas. He had a phone mount on the dashboard, showing what appeared to be the Uber driver app, with navigation running. We made small talk about how busy the Strip was, and whether I'd had a good night at work. But as we left the main tourist corridor and headed toward the residential areas, the driver's questions started becoming more personal and specific. He asked if I lived alone, whether I had a boyfriend or roommate, what time I typically got home from work. The questions felt intrusive but not immediately threatening, and I gave vague, non-committal answers while checking my phone to see how much longer the ride would take. That's when I noticed the first major red flag. According to the Uber app, we should have been on I-215 heading southeast toward Henderson. Instead, we were heading west on Flamingo Road, which was completely the wrong direction. When I asked about the route, the driver said he knew a shortcut that would avoid late-night traffic and that the app's suggested route wasn't always the fastest. The explanation sounded plausible enough that I didn't immediately panic, but I started paying much closer attention to where we were going. As we continued west, the urban development started thinning out, with fewer lights and buildings and more empty spaces between structures. We were heading toward the edge of the developed area, approaching the desert that surrounds Las Vegas on all sides. "This doesn't look like the way to Henderson," I said, trying to keep my voice calm. "Can you please take the route the app is showing?" The driver glanced at me in the rearview mirror with an expression that made my blood run cold. "Don't worry. We're going exactly where we need to go," he said, his tone completely different from the friendly small talk we'd been making earlier. "Just sit back and relax." The shift in his demeanor was so dramatic and threatening that I immediately pulled out my phone and opened the Uber app to check the trip details. That's when I discovered something that made me realize I was in serious danger. The license plate number shown in the app didn't actually match the car I was in. I'd checked it quickly in bad lighting and seen numbers that looked similar, but the actual plate was different by 2 digits. With shaking hands, I looked more carefully at the driver profile. The photo showed a man who looked somewhat similar to my driver, but definitely wasn't the same person. The driver had used someone else's account or created a fake profile with a stolen photo, and I'd gotten into his car because I hadn't verified the details carefully enough. "I need you to stop the car right now," I said, trying to sound assertive despite the terror building in my chest. "This isn't the right route and I want to get out." Instead of stopping, the driver accelerated, and I heard the distinctive sound of the door locks engaging. We were now on Blue Diamond Road heading west, with the city lights of Las Vegas receding behind us and the dark emptiness of the Nevada desert opening up ahead. There were fewer cars on this road, fewer buildings, and fewer opportunities for help or escape. "You're not getting out until I say you can get out," the driver said, his voice calm in a way that was more terrifying than if he'd been yelling. "We're going to take a little trip out to the desert, and you're going to be a good girl and not cause any problems." The casual way he described what was clearly a kidnapping attempt made it clear this wasn't spontaneous or improvised. He'd done this before, had a plan, and had been waiting at the casino pickup area specifically to prey on lone women requesting rides late at night. The fake Uber profile was part of a deliberate system for identifying and abducting vulnerable targets. I tried to stay calm and think strategically about my options. The car was moving at about 60 miles per hour on a dark road with almost no traffic. Jumping out would likely result in serious injury or death. The doors were locked and controlled by the driver. My phone showed I still had signal, but I didn't know how long that would last as we moved deeper into the desert. I quickly sent a text to my roommate with my location and a message that I was being kidnapped, then called 911. The dispatcher answered immediately, and I explained as clearly as I could that I was in a car with a fake Uber driver who was taking me to the desert against my will. I provided the actual license plate number, description of the car, and our current location based on landmarks I could see. The driver heard me on the phone and became agitated, telling me to hang up and threatening that things would go badly for me if I didn't cooperate. But I stayed on the line with 911, and the dispatcher kept me talking while coordinating with Nevada Highway Patrol to locate the vehicle. As we drove further into the desert, I could see the driver becoming more nervous, constantly checking his mirrors and seeming to debate whether to continue with his plan or abort. The knowledge that police were being notified and potentially looking for the car appeared to be making him reconsider the situation. After what felt like an eternity but was probably only about 10 minutes, I saw flashing lights behind us. A Nevada Highway Patrol vehicle had spotted us and was signaling the driver to pull over. For a terrifying moment, I thought the driver might try to run or do something desperate, but instead he slowed down and pulled onto the shoulder of the road. The moments between the car stopping and the police approaching felt like the most dangerous of the entire ordeal. I didn't know if the driver would try to harm me before police could intervene, or if he had weapons or accomplices. I stayed on the phone with 911 while police conducted what they call a high-risk traffic stop, treating the vehicle as a potential threat and ordering the driver out at gunpoint. The driver was arrested immediately, and I was helped out of the back seat by officers who seemed genuinely shaken by how close the situation had come to a much worse outcome. They explained that they'd been able to locate us quickly because the dispatcher had provided excellent information and because Highway Patrol had units relatively close to our location. The investigation that followed revealed that the man who'd picked me up wasn't named Marcus and had no connection to Uber as either a driver or employee. He'd created a fake driver profile using a stolen identity and had been positioning himself at casino pickup areas to intercept rideshare requests from intoxicated or exhausted passengers who wouldn't carefully verify vehicle and driver details. Most disturbing was the discovery that I wasn't his first victim. Police found evidence linking him to at least 3 other women who'd been picked up under similar circumstances over the previous 6 months. 2 of those women had escaped or been released after being driven to remote locations and sexually assaulted. 1 woman was still missing, and the investigation into her disappearance became focused on the desert areas where the driver had taken his other victims. The case highlighted a vulnerability in rideshare systems that most passengers never consider. The apps assume that passengers will carefully verify license plates and driver photos, but in reality, many people just look for a car that's approximately the right color and model, especially late at night in crowded pickup areas with poor lighting. Predators can exploit this by positioning themselves near legitimate rideshare pickup zones and using fake profiles to identify targets. Law. Enforcement officials explained that I'd made several mistakes that made me vulnerable. I hadn't carefully verified the license plate in adequate lighting. I hadn't confirmed the driver's photo matched the person in the car. I hadn't checked that the driver had my destination already entered before getting in. And I'd gotten into the back seat immediately instead of checking front seat details that might have revealed the deception. But they also emphasized that the primary responsibility for this crime lay with the predator who'd created an elaborate system for kidnapping vulnerable women, not with passengers who trusted that technology was keeping them safe. The fake profile, The strategic positioning at pickup zones and the systematic targeting of lone women demonstrated premeditation and sophistication that went far beyond opportunistic crime. The experience fundamentally changed how I think about rideshare safety and the trust we place in technology to protect us. I now verify every detail before getting into a rideshare vehicle. I check the license plate carefully in good lighting, confirm the driver's photo matches, make sure they know my name and destination without me telling them, and always sit in the back seat behind the driver, where I can access door handles and see what they're doing. I also learn to trust my instincts when something feels wrong. The driver's personal questions should have been an immediate red flag, and the moment I noticed we were going the wrong direction, I should have insisted on getting out rather than accepting his explanation about shortcuts. The seconds or minutes it takes to politely accommodate someone who's making you uncomfortable can be the difference between escape and a situation where escape becomes impossible. The man who kidnapped me is now serving a lengthy prison sentence for multiple counts of kidnapping, assault, and other charges related to his systematic predation on women using fake rideshare profiles. The case led to improved verification systems and better passenger education from rideshare companies, though the fundamental vulnerability of trusting strangers based on an app profile remains a concern. My advice to anyone using rideshare services, especially late at night in cities like Las Vegas where predators know people are vulnerable, is to verify absolutely everything before getting in a vehicle. Take a photo of the license plate and send it to someone. Confirm the driver knows your name and destination. Check that the photo matches. If anything feels wrong, don't get in the car or get out immediately if you're already inside. Your life may depend on those few seconds of verification that seem paranoid, but could save you from a nightmare.